Hello, Brett Ellis with the Ellis Team at Keller Williams down here in sunny Southwest Florida. And that's big news compared to the big winter storm that's coming to most of the United States this week. So I don't say that lightly. But today, we've got our 2026 real estate market update for Southwest Florida. And we've got all the big numbers, all the big news that you want to pay attention to. The first thing we'll look at is the year-end sales prices. So year-end sale prices ended up the median price here at $385,000. That's down 4.9% from last year. And I think in our article that we wrote, we're down about 10%, 10.2, something like that, percent, compared to what it was at the height. Now, what is that year-end sales price? I think it's an amalgamation of all the sales throughout the year. It's not always necessarily where the year ended up. It's what the year averaged out. So we are down 4.9%, and that makes sense because home prices have been down in Lee County. So let's look at homes closed. Now remember what I predicted. 2025 would be the fourth best year on record. And a lot of agents I talk to say, oh, it's like the worst in 30 years. Well, let's look at it here. We did hit the number we were talking about. We did eclipse. That's the wrong graph. That's not the graph I want to show you. This is the actual numbers. 2025 is this right here, 14,090. We did eclipse the 14,000 we were predicting. The only other years that did that was 2023, 2022, no, 2021. So 2022, 2021, and 2020. So that indeed does make 2025 the best year on record in terms of number of closings. So the market isn't bad. What it's telling us is there was a reset. There was a 2026 reset, is what I call it. But prices have reset, which have made homes where they need to be, such that buyers will turn on and buy. So that's kind of what we saw. I've got some more graphs here I want to take you through. Let's see here. Dollar volume. Let's look at 2025, how it did. It's the 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth best in dollar volume. Now, what is dollar volume? If you take the number of sales times the average sales price, so it's the total accumulation of all homes sold, the whole dollar volume of everything bought and sold in Southwest Florida, Lee County single-family homes. And we ended up at about $7.5 billion. Last year was $7.6 billion. And to put it in perspective, we were about $9.2 billion back in 2021. Let's look at what sales prices did. Now, this graph, it's kind of hard to make heads or tails out of this graph. So I like to kind of look at, and it's really kind of hard to make heads or tails out of this one, but what can you say about 2025 compared to where we were in January of 2020? Well, I can say we're quite a bit higher. We know we're at 385 here. We were about 270. So home prices have gone up $115,000 in just 5 years. That's pretty good. It pays to be in the business of home ownership. Now, someone might argue, well, if I bought at the height of the market, it's worth less now. But if I go back, well, let's do that. Let's go back to our year-end sales prices. And most people argue the height of the market back then, we had never seen this price. It got up to about $305,000 on the average. The median, about $281,900 in 2005. And some people say, I'm ruined, I'll never buy real estate again. So let me ask you this. It's 20 years later, 2025. Homes are at $385,000 compared to $281,900. If you would have bought at the height of the market 20 years ago, the absolute height of the market, the highest we've ever seen back at that time. Because if I showed you the graph, it would go down. I mean, we peaked here and then we started going down. Would you buy up everything you could if someone gave you a magic Bitcoin or something and said, you have the ability to buy up every single property you can with this $10 million in Bitcoin back in 2025, but you have to only buy in 2025, would you do it? Well, looking at this graph, I would do it. Probably everyone I talk to would do it. And that's the thing about real estate. is even if you bought at the top of that market and it went down, and what do we know? It did go down. But real estate comes back up, and over time, it goes up. You can have, right now we're in a stretch where it's going down, but if I asked you right now, should you buy up everything you can in 2026? The answer is probably should be yes, because in 2046, we're going to look back at 2026, regardless of where we are in this, and say, yes, we should have. Now, at any point on this graph, should you have bought as much as you could back at that time? I would argue yes. Now, would you argue you should have bought everything you could there? That's a fair argument, except we never know when the bottom is. And we never know when the bottom is here. Could it go a little bit lower or a lot lower? I guess it could. But the thing is about real estate, you own it over time. You don't try to time the market. Buy the market and let time be your friend. So let's look at some other stats here, because that's what we're really here to do. We're not trying to convince you of anything. We're trying to educate you. This is our home close graph, and the yellow line is 2025. So you can kind of see where we were. We ended up pretty close to the 2019. So all we really have to do is say, if homes closed are like 19, what happened to prices in 2019? You also have to compare against inventory levels. And I think the thing we're going to get into here in a little while is the Ellis Team Current Market Index, because that's a good future indicator of where the market is headed next. Let's look at listing inventory first, though. Are the official numbers. Now, when prices were going up, we had no inventory. When prices are going down, we had a lot of inventory. But inventory is down now. So that's a good sign. Let's look at our 12 months prices. As you can see, they were 400 last year in December. They are 385, so that's down 4.9%. Sales prices here over time, that's 23 to 25. Yeah, they've come down in those couple of years, but we knew that. Here's the condos. Look at this graph. This is the inventory levels. They are down this season compared to last season. That's a good thing. Not good for home buyers, but it's good for home sellers. And similar looking graph on the inventory on the single family. They've gone up, but they are down compared to where they were. So that's good news. And we're in season. They usually rise in season. Here is the thing that I like to look at. It's called the supply and demand. So this is the supply of homes, and it's down a little bit, and this is the demand. That's the pending sales. So supply is coming down. Demand is starting to go up a little bit. And the part in the middle here is what I call the gap. So I like to illustrate that a different way. The gap is rising just a little bit, but what we probably should do is go back and look at January of last year. It rose and then it started falling off. So we're going to keep track of that and see what happens this season. Does the gap between the buyers and the sellers widen or lessen? Usually the home sales start picking up and it starts lessening. But we're going to have to track and see how many people put their homes on the market and compare that to the velocity of the home sales. So we'll do that. Let's go back. This is the total pendings. And you can see we have a downward trend line. So that's down, but we are doing pretty well for January compared to last January. So we'll keep our eye on that. We're actually up. And here we get to the Ellis Team Current Market Index. This is where rubber meets the road, because this index predicts the future pricing of the market. The higher that number goes, the worse it is for home sellers. So where are we now? Well, it's not a great market for home sellers because prices are still coming down, right? We're starting to see that number dip a little bit, and we're going to track that going forward. So right now, the Ellis Team Current Market Index sits at a 5.239. Where was it here? We were up in the 7s, so significantly better than it was. Now, where was it back in 22 and 21? We were less than 1. That's how you know. I've got a chart where I did this back in the 90s and 2000 and whatnot. You knew prices were going up then because the market index told you so. But then we also knew going forward that prices were going to start coming down, and that's exactly what happened. So what we're saying right now is it's still kind of high, higher than we would like, but it is starting to come down, and it's certainly off the highs. So we're going to watch. It's going to start to get real interesting if we start dipping below that 5 number. So that's what I want to see what happens there. Month supply of inventory. Let's see. I've got the city supply. The overall market stands at about 6.5%, 6.5 months. That is a slightest buyer's market. If I showed you these numbers back in time, well, I'll go back for the overall market. It was 8.36 months. But that one I did by price range. This one I'm doing by city. Now, Fort Myers Beach and the islands have the most amount of inventory, so prices aren't probably going to be doing very well there. But look at Cape Coral. Cape Coral had an abundance of inventory after Hurricane Ian, and that's settled right down. It's almost, it's actually below the overall market. Bonita, Fort Myers is certainly below the overall market. Lehigh is a little higher, so Lehigh is a little bit more of a buyer's market, but we'll keep our eye on that going forward too. And those numbers were, that's just a few days ago actually. The month supply of inventory, that was back in October. And I've got one last, it's the price reductions. I track the average price reductions each week. It's coming in about 3.3%, 3.29 is the kind of the average that I'm seeing. So sellers, if you need to make a price reduction, we've got a pricing strategy that we employ. I'm not going to share it with you here on this video. I don't want to make this a 30-minute long video, but we've got a pricing strategy and how to bring your home to the market, how fast you should respond to the market if you're not getting the success you want, and then how much your reduction should be. So with all that data, I know it's a lot, and we've got a lot more. Always trust the Ellis team at Keller Williams as your trusted source for news, information on what's really going on in the market. Our phone number is 239-489-4042. You can read our weekly articles that are published in the news press. They're over on the blog, blog.topagent.com. You can also find them on the news press in their home seeker section. And if you want to find out what your home is worth online, at least get a rough estimate, go to SWFLhomevalues.com. I'm Brett Ellis on behalf of my mother Sandy and I and the entire Ellis team. Thanks for tuning in to the January 2026 State of the Market Report, Southwest Florida style. Thank you.
The Ellis team at Keller Williams is a family affair. Always call the Ellis team, they'll handle you with care.